Can we cheers?
Oh, we're on.
Can we cheers before we start? Cheers.
Cheers.
Boom.
Started, so here we go.
Start the fiesta.
Aha! Arriba, arriba. Well, welcome, internets. This is Fantasy Football Fiesta. I'm your host, Tarnell Mims. We have Jason Tanachik and Aaron Dion.
What's up, everybody?
Yo.
So, what this will be is a weekly podcast with the best information you can find on fantasy football. We guarantee it. And some chips and salsa. One thing I'd like to bring up, one thing brought to my attention, Chris Johnson. I actually had him last year. I found him good as a number 2 for like maybe 4 games. And I eventually had to dump him. What do you guys think? Do you think CJ2K is actually have a resurgence there down in Arizona, or is he just going to be the same guy he's always been since he actually got his big contract, which is mediocre to subpar performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why he just got signed in mid-August. I think he's washed up. I think he's done. I don't think he's going to see much playing time out there in Arizona.
Well, I think the bigger thing to think about with the CJ2K signing is not so much CJ2K. I mean, I wouldn't personally even look at him as an RB3 option. I wouldn't play him in a flex. But what is he going to do to the other running backs in Arizona? Andre Ellington, some of the guys, I think their draft stock takes a hit because I think he is going to get some field time. I don't think he's going to get much, and I think it really is going to impact draft status because, I mean, we're in draft season right now, so everybody's going into their drafts. They're looking for those mid-round running backs. You know, the top-round running backs are already set. Everybody knows the stud guys. But you're looking for those guys to kind of fill out your lineups, the running back 2, the flex options, and I think it really starts to impact what you're looking at there. I think those guys are going to take a hit. And I think if Ellington's draft stock takes a hit, and I can't even think of the other guy that's there right now, but I think both of them take a dive.
All right, interesting analysis. He might impact them, and he might not. He might. I mean, if they do running back by committee where they go 3 bats, then yeah, he's going to affect their touches. If he's just there until if someone gets hurt and that's when he actually sees more time, then I could see him impacting status. But I don't know if he'll be that relevant. I think they'll get to camp. They'll check Andre Ellington's health because that's the real issue right now, which is why the other guy, which for some reason I can't think of his name either. But when Andre Ellington's health is good, they're going to go to Ellington and they'll go to the other guy. I don't know if CJ2K sees anything. If at most maybe change of pace back on occasional third down, or when the game's already out of hand and they're just going to rest the other 2 guys because they've already blown up and they're ahead by so much, maybe he'll come in. But I don't know if he'll be that relevant of a back, personally.
He's not going to have any relevance. Ellington's going to be a badass running back. I
don't know that I'd go as far as badass, but then, I mean, there's always the consideration, is this guy even going to make the team?
True statement.
Just because they signed him doesn't mean he's making the roster. I mean, we're still in our 90-man roster, so there's no guarantee that he's even going to be on that final 53-man. They might have just brought him in to kind of kick some of these other guys into gear.
Light that fire. I agree, but why are we even talking about Arizona anyway?
All right, Jason. What do you have to say? Do you have a topic you want to step on right now?
Since we're in fantasy football mode, why don't we get into and why don't we talk about a little bit of some fantasy football? See who's hot right now, see who's not. How about some rookies going in there and impact they're gonna make? Let's see. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, for sure. We could talk about rookies, and I mean, we're in draft season right now. Like I said, we're looking at, for me, going into a draft, I'm always looking at those mid-round guys. I'm looking for the guys that are going to fill out the team. I'm looking for the sleepers. I'm looking for those breakout guys. So I think that's a good topic of discussion going into the drafts here. I'm a little bit hesitant to talk too much about this kind of shit because I'm in fantasy leagues with both of you guys that haven't drafted yet. So I'm a little bit hesitant to give too much of my information out, but I think that's a relevant conversation going into draft time, and I think that's what anybody listening is going to want to hear about. You know, who are we looking at going into the draft? Who do we like? Who do we not like? I know for one, Jason and I had a conversation recently about Jeremy Maclin, and I know you're pretty hot on Jeremy Maclin. And I was having a thought recently as relates to him. He was amazing in Philadelphia. He had over 140 targets. He put up tons of points. But now he's going over to Kansas City. And I think in giving it some thought, I think I disagree with you. I think he's actually going to be overrated. I think Jeremy Maclin's somebody to avoid. I was thinking about Kansas City. Their wide receivers didn't even have a touchdown last year. I don't think Jeremy Maclin's getting anywhere near 140 targets. I don't even know that he'd get half of that in Kansas City. I think Jeremy Kelsey is probably getting a lot more looks. So for me, if we're going into a conversation about sleepers and breakout guys, he falls into the bust category for me now at this point. I think Jeremy Maclin's somebody to avoid. But what do you think, Jason?
You know, I disagree, man. Good stat that last year receivers had no touchdowns last year. It was crazy. But who were the receivers? I mean, they had nobody. They had Dwayne Bowe, but Dwayne Bowe's a bust. They had no receivers out there. Jeremy Maclin is proven. He's a stud. Alex Smith is going to get the ball to him. He's going to get targets. He's going to have 80, 90 catches. He'll probably have about 900 to 1,100 yards. And he's going to have, 3-4 touchdowns. He's going to be an impact. And then he's going to let Kelsey, like you said, he's going to have Kelsey get open, and that's going to make their offense that much better. There's a reason why they think that Kansas City Chiefs might dethrone the Denver Broncos in the AFC West.
Well, I don't know about that. I think we're getting a little bit crazy to get into that conversation so early. Personally, however, I think you make a good point. I think Jeremy Maclin, maybe they bring him in to correct some of the things that were going wrong last year, because obviously that was a major issue in Kansas City. But that's somebody that's been on my radar recently as maybe somebody to avoid. What about you?
I don't know. Yeah, Tarnell, I was just going to ask you, what do you think about draft position? Where would you want to be in draft position-wise when it comes to the draft?
Where do I want to be? Honestly, either in the towards the front or towards the end. The middle for me is by far the most annoying place to draft. Because I want back-to-back. I want picks where I can quick 2 picks, look at everything else go away. Being in the middle, I don't know, for me it is the worst. It's like being in the middle of a roller coaster. It's Monday, there's no excitement. You don't get the best of anything. So if I can be last, that's fine, because I can get back-to-back picks and I can screw somebody over. And I'm even the beginning of the next round, I'm looking at it. I want this guy, and when I'm looking, I can get things in succession and I can fill out my roster quicker. It's easier to strategize when I've got back-to-back picks.
No, I agree. Aaron, what about you?
I actually disagree. I love to draft in the middle. I like to get about 10 to 12 picks in between. I feel like that gives my team a lot of good balance. But I also think what's more important than where you like to draft is how you handle drafting in that position, because you don't really get to choose where you're drafting. So drafting in the middle, I think, has a little bit of a different strategy than drafting really early. Early especially. Jason and I have done some mock drafts here recently, and both of us really struggled drafting early because you get that first guy, and then there's 25 picks before you're picking again. So there's a lot of guys off the board. So I guess, Jason, what did you learn from drafting early? What adjustments did you make to try to build out that roster so you really didn't get hamstringed by drafting so early and going so long until you were picking?
Right. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is you get the really good player in the first couple picks. That's a guarantee. Then it comes back around. You really have to plan for it, and you just have to be able to, maybe pick a little bit earlier than you want to for certain players. There is the running back that maybe you'd pick in the 3rd round or 4th round if you're a middle pick, but you have to take him when you're coming around that 25th, 26th pick, because you're not going to see him again for another 25 picks. So you have to adjust. You have to adjust your strategy. And that's what I did. And I think that you can definitely draft a good team early in position. You can draft a good team late position. You just have to strategize and be able to do the mock drafts. I definitely recommend everybody do the mock drafts and kind of go early, kind of go late, middle, and see which one and get comfortable with all those rounds. But you can definitely get a good team early or late. It doesn't really matter as long as you strategize.
So you're thinking your strategy is to pick up those running backs early? You're saying you're reaching for a running back as opposed to, picking up a wide receiver or one of those stud quarterbacks early.
Right. I think that you grab a Jamal Charles 1 or 2, and then you're coming back around, and then you're gonna have back-to-back picks. I definitely get 2 more running backs. Wide receivers are a dime a dozen. Wide receiver stats are about equal once you pass maybe the top 2 or 3 wide receivers. It's not that way with running backs. So when you're coming back around, maybe you reach for a Melvin Gordon. Maybe you reach for, if you're not going to have the C.J. Andersons, you're not going to have the Jeremy Hills there, but you're going to reach for, other running backs that it might be, in pick 30 or pick 35. You're going to get those 2 back to back, and I would definitely say grab 3 running backs, and then grab your receivers and the quarterback later on.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Interesting you bring out Melvin Gordon. Obviously, you're a Chargers fan. What are your thoughts of him? That kind of bridges a segue into a conversation about rookies, because that's always something that I like to look at in the draft. Because there's always seems to be one. You gotta find the one rookie that just has an amazing season. Is it Melvin Gordon? If not Melvin Gordon, who is it? And what are your thoughts?
There is. I mean, it's hard to draft rookies when you're doing fantasy football. I think Melvin Gordon, he had over 2,400 yards in one season last year. He broke LaDainian Tomlinson's single-season record. I think he's definitely the missing piece that the Chargers needed for a very long time, ever since, speaking of LT. So I think that he has a really good I
don't know that anybody was speaking of LT, but if you want to go ahead and drop him in.
Since the last time we've had LT, we haven't really had a good running back. Ryan Matthews has been too hurt. Melvin Gordon, durable. Pass catcher. He can run. He sees holes very well. I think he's going to have a really solid season. Not a 2,000-yard season by any means, but he's going to have a 1,200, 1,300-yard season. He's going to have about 7, 8 touchdowns. He's going to be a solid person. There's a couple other
rookies
and if
you can get that out of your running back, you're doing well.
Right. And there's a couple other rookies out there. Some are getting hurt. I really like what's that wide receiver from Oakland?
Wide receiver, Oakland.
A rookie wide receiver.
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper. I think he's going to be a stud. Very good chance for him to be a rookie, one of the top rookies of the year. So, definitely a good look out for him as well.
I will say, when you're talking about rookies, I would look more toward a rookie running back than I would a rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, agreed.
You've got some that make a couple plays, but you're going to get more impact from a rookie running back than you will with a rookie wide receiver. It's easier to find someone that can just pound the ball, break more tackles because their legs are fresh, they're younger, and they'll have a couple more breakout plays than you will someone who's understanding route running, understanding how to deal with the defensive backs, understanding plays, and already having the rapport with the quarterback to be where the quarterback wants him to be when he throws the ball. The quarterback to trust him the way he would a veteran wide receiver. So, you can go with Amari Cooper, but, even still, you're going with Amari Cooper with a second-year quarterback in Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr is probably one of the better rookies you're going to find, sans Luck or Wilson. But, his second year, he's still not going to be in that top tier of quarterback where he's still learning himself, let alone being able to bring Amari Cooper up to another level. So, if you're going to go for a rookie, you need to go look for a rookie running back more than anything else.
You're just going to get more touches.
They'll get a lot more touches. The best rookie running back I ever took was Adrian Peterson, and I just crushed the league. I went to that league. It was just, I knew him coming out of Oklahoma, and out of college, and I'm like, oh, that's the dude to grab. And it just so happened he was a monster. He was a beast. And ever since then, I've been on, if I'm going for a rookie, it's going to be a rookie running back.
Right. And just to kind of go off of the Minnesota thing, pretty funny. I'm wearing a Chargers jersey. Aaron's got his Broncos jersey. Obviously, we're fans. Tarnell, Green Bay Packer owner, so he doesn't need a jersey. But it's funny how we're drafting Adrian Peterson in Minnesota when we're a Green Bay Packer owner. But just wanted to segue that in. The owners don't need to wear jerseys.
Listen, in fantasy there are no rules. I can't draft my whole team, so I'm gonna grab who I can to grab the crown. You know what I mean? And that's like the only Viking player I like ever really that's ever done anything where it's like, oh, I need to draft him. He's the only impact guy they've had for like how many years. So there's really nowhere else to go unless they happen to have like I need to fill in for the defense and they just happen to play somebody really sorry. Then I'll maybe draft the Vikings defense. But outside of that, I'm not touching them. It's the same thing with the Bears. Outside of their defense which is horrible because now their defense is a joke. They don't even have a solid defense. I can't even unless it's like bye week. I'm not really touching a Bear either because they're just that whole team is in disarray on the offense and defensive side of the ball.
I agree. Get back into fantasy football. Aaron, what do you think about sleepers? Can you give everybody maybe a couple sleepers you're thinking about?
Well, it's kind of funny that you segue into that because I am actually pretty high on the Vikings this year. I think one of the sleepers that everybody should look at is Teddy Bridgewater. He had an amazing end of the season. If you go back and look at his stats, the last 5 or 6 games, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he was top tier in red zone percentage. He was top tier in third down percentage. He was looking really, really solid at the end of the year. And draft him early. I wouldn't draft him as my first quarterback, but as you're tailing towards the end of the draft, he's going to be there. And I think that he is primed to have a really good season because he's got Mike Wallace on his team now, so it adds a really talented wideout. And he's bringing back Adrian Peterson. He didn't have Adrian Peterson last year, so obviously Adrian Peterson commands defenses to come in. You're looking at 7 in the box, 8 in the box. That's going to open up passing lanes. And I think that sleeper-wise, I think Teddy Bridgewater that late consideration for Mike Wallace to look at him late because I think he's going to get looked. Teddy Bridgewater is going to look at him a lot more than some of these other guys.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a surprise. We'll see what happens.
But I think you were breaking up a little bit. But from the gist of what I got, what you were saying is Adrian Peterson is going to command so much from the defense, it's going to have to change their game plan, and bringing that in along with Mike Wallace, it's going to open up a lot more things for Teddy Bridgewater, which I agree, which is why I don't know if I would consider Teddy Bridgewater a sleeper because he did show signs of high level of play last year. And that was with who was the guy, Ashanti or whatever, some no-name guy running back that they used to fill in while Adrian Peterson was gone.
Hopefully he's not watching this.
Yeah, well, fuck him. Who cares? Cordarrelle Patterson, still had issue running routes. Greg Jennings dramatically dropped off after leaving the pack and going to Vikings. He really wasn't an impact dude. So it's like, what did Bridgewater really have to work with? Now that you have Adrian Peterson back, which takes pressure off anybody. I mean, hell, we'd be able to get a few good plays off with Adrian Peterson there, just because of who he is. Then you add Mike Wallace, who's a speedster down the line. I expect Bridgewater to have a pretty damn good year. I don't know if we would consider him a sleeper. I think anyone with half a knowledge of football would look at Bridgewater as a number 2 QB. That's just my
well, if you're looking at Bridgewater as a number 1 QB, that's a sleeper because he's definitely not going in the top 10 or 12. So
okay, yeah. If you're upset because Rodgers, Manning, Luck, Brady, Rivers, who else is in that top tier? The dude out of Atlanta, because they think they're about to have a resurgence.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, Matty Rice. If those guys are gone, and you're just like, well, fuck, who else do I take? You're not sure what's going on with the situation in Buffalo and Philly, so those are all crapshoots. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess then Bridgewater would be a steal. But I don't think he's someone under the radar though, because I think if you're in a situation, I think he's kind of somebody you kind of turn and look around. Yeah, he's not so proven to put up like high numbers, but you got to see with what he did last year. How does he not improve with those two potent weapons now? I mean, it's the same thing. Like, look, okay, transitioning. Speaking of which, potent weapons. What do you guys think of Andrew Luck this year? You saw what he did last year, what he's been doing since he came in the league, and now you add Frank Gore and Andre Johnson. What are your thoughts on what Andrew Luck and the Colts are going to produce this year?
Aaron, go ahead.
Well, I think off quarterback. I think he's probably number 1, number 2, depending on how you're ranking it. So I think he's going early. I think he's going to be consistent. He was one of only 5 quarterbacks last year that was able to produce double-digit fantasy points in 15 games. Actually, got to give a little shout-out to a blog that I read, Matthew Berry on ESPN. It kind of segues into the conversation we were just having about quarterbacks. Actually, a quarterback that you overlooked, Tarnell, I think, is Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill was one of only 5 quarterbacks last year that had double-digit points. No quarterback last year had double-digit points in all 16 games. You remember real well Andrew Luck's.
Lux?
Rum and Coke, baby.
Yeah.
Enjoy those rum and Coke.
Is that his rap name?
Yeah, I'm doing all right with my rum and Cokes here. Andrew Luck completely shit the bed in one game, and it allowed me to win a fantasy league against you in last year. But no, across the board, no quarterback had double-digit points in all 16 games. 5 quarterbacks had double-digit points in 15 games, and it was pointed out to me in the Matthew Berry blog. Those 5 quarterbacks were Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, and Ryan Tannehill. And I think Ryan Tannehill is somebody that nobody's talking about either. I think he is kind of poised to be that next level quarterback. So I think he warrants QB1 consideration. But overall, those are my thoughts on it.
I think he's a sleeper. I don't think anyone's really thinking about Tannehill. Jarvis Landry, I think he's a Jeremy Maclin type player. I think Tannehill's going to find him a lot, give him a bunch of targets. So I think that he's definitely going to be up there in the stats. But yeah, it's crazy when you told me about those stats, Aaron. I couldn't believe that he was up there in those top tier quarterbacks. Everyone was talking about Tom Brady's and the Phillip Rivers and everyone else. Tannehill, they're like, what? Tannehill? No way. But yeah, I mean, and he's just poised to be better this year with more targets. So we'll see what happens.
Although if you go back and look at
he keeps him.
I would say if you go back and look at it, it's not that surprising, only because look at the games. Miami was really close in a lot of games. Like I remember we played them, and they gave us a run for the money. So they did score points. They did have an effect. I don't remember what their record was. I don't remember if they were 8-8 or 6-10 or what the hell they were.
They were right there.
But I remember them being competitive all the time. I mean, didn't they eat the Chargers alive? Wasn't that one of the games?
Tarnell, I don't recall that, Tarnell. I don't recall that at all.
Oh, yeah. No. So you think about it. He's a guy that you overlook because everyone looks at Miami like they look at Jacksonville, like they look at Tennessee, is kind of football purgatory. So you really don't. Miami's always been on the cusp of being in the conversation of being good, but you never actually talk about them about being good. So any player there you kind of ignore. The only guy I never ignored there, well, last year their tight end Charles Clay I had on, and he occasionally did some good things. But I mean, you think about Miami, you never think breakout players, and which I think Tannehill might end up being a sleeper that you can actually concentrate on your running backs and wide receivers and grab Tannehill late for most people who aren't looking at him because they're going to be looking at all the other top guys. So that could be a nice 6th, 7th round QB that you can sneak away and eat some people up with.
So yeah, exactly. He's definitely going to be there in the 6th or 7th round, and I would definitely target him as a QB1 because I think he's only going to get better. They're adding more targets, and you're right. Wins are always that team where this is the year. we finally put it together. This is the year, and this is never the year because the Patriots are always doing what they do. But the Dolphins, I would say the past 3 or 4 years since the Ryan Tannehill era started, I think they just continue to get better and better, and I think they're going to be even better this year. So I think they have some fantasy implications there. In Tannehill, like you said, Charles Clay, I think he's still with the team. I haven't even double-checked that one. But they've added some wide receivers. Greg Jennings over there on the team. They've added some targets. And Lamar Miller, I think Lamar Miller had his breakout season last year. And I think this year he's only going to continue to get better. So I think the Dolphins are somebody that are a team that has a lot of guys that are worth looking at, especially as you get into those middle rounds. Because like you said, nobody's looking at them early. They don't have a bunch of studs, but they have a lot of players that I think are going to be doing really well, especially as you get into playoff and your fantasy Super Bowl championship time. They're playing in Miami. So you've got good weather. Your running backs aren't going to be hampered by crappy weather. It's not going to be blustering wind in Pittsburgh and Buffalo and the shitty weather. They're playing in Miami, so they've got clear open skies. And I think that in those middle rounds, some of those Miami players are worth looking at, especially Tannehill in the quarterback. Like you said, they're going to be there, or he's going to be there round 6, round 7, round 8. So you can load up on wide receivers and running back a quarterback late. You get Tannehill and Bridgewater, and I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think that just to kind of close on Miami, you have the first couple picks where earlier we were talking about having an early pick. You're picking Eddie Lacy. You're picking Jamal Charles early. Those picks come around, I'm telling you, Lamar Miller is going to be open. When Lamar Miller is open, you better take him because he can catch the ball, he can run the ball. And then Jarvis Landry later on. Those 3 people, Tannehill, Landry, and Lamar Miller, that's a pretty good trio. And if Clay's there, that's awesome too. But definitely look for the running back Lamar Miller coming back 25, 26 pick for the fantasy football for sure.
That's a good look. Also, another thing to think about when you're drafting people, who's going to be sitting their players down at the end of the year? Now, unless some wild clusterfuck happens in New England, they pretty much always run the AFC East, and nobody ever can do anything in that division. The Jets, who knows what the hell's going on with the Jets? Bills, again, purgatory. You got Miami. I doubt any one of those teams are sitting their starters come week 15, 16, 17. So, if you want people who are actually going to sit there and show and prove and try and show out during that end of the year when you're in playoff and championship mode, try and look at some teams that probably aren't going to be well in the playoffs, rested, first-round buys, and they're going to just sit all their people, and you're out of luck. You're just like, wait, I've been using this guy all year, and now I have no one. So yeah, looking at somebody like a Miami, maybe even I would say St. Louis because they seem to be on the come up. I will agree with Jason. Macklin might actually be a guy to target because I don't think he will be coasting. I think he'll be in the thick of it, and I think him back with his old coach Andy Reid is going to do Macklin some good. I don't see them going away from Macklin at all in this. They got Macklin for a reason because Andy Reid wanted it. So he's another guy to actually look for.
I think the AFC East is going to be a beast of a division, man. Tarnell, you were just talking about the Patriots and the Miami. Buffalo. Look at Buffalo. Buffalo has, E.J. Manuel's quarterback, Sammy Watkins is receiver, LaShawn McCoy is running back now. Ridiculous. Nobody's even talking about him. You're going to steal these players. The Sammy Watkins, you can steal him in the 7th, 8th round. LaShawn McCoy, he could be there late first round. Or maybe even into the second round.
Late second round.
Yeah, no one's even thinking about him. So he could be another Lamar Miller type player for the 1 or 2 pick. So don't sleep on Buffalo. AFC East is going to be a beast of a freaking right. Coming regular season.
Right.
And another thing that should not be overlooked is we've got Tom Brady's suspension that's going to be playing into the mix. So he's out 4 games. Their backup, Jimmy Garoppolo, has not looked very good at all. So we very well could see the Patriots starting off I feel like I'm being generous giving it 1-3, 2-2 maybe. I would not be surprised to see him 1-3 or 0-4 going into Game 5.
You know what the problem with that is? is we all the time we talk about them not doing good. We always get worried, and they always wasn't the. Do you remember when Brady got broken down by Pollard? He was out that whole year. You know what we forget is that the Patriots were 11-5 that year. They still won. The thing is, what has EJ Manuel actually shown us yet? It hasn't been much. Watkins is good, but they need somebody else at quarterback, and I don't know who's going to do it. The strength for the Bills, defense. You want to draft a defense solid? Grab Buffalo's defense. Their defense is a damn problem. Offense, I don't know. They're another team they're so close to being a pro. Like if they could get their offense together, the Bills would be scary because their defense is right there. Same thing with St. Louis. Defense is right there. Offense, it's who knows. Speaking of which, now that the Niners have went into, I don't know, disarray is the generous way of saying it. I see them at the bottom of the NFC West, and I don't see them being any. I don't know who's going to be fantasy relevant on that damn team. I mean, maybe Kaepernick, but I still don't even know who those is going to throw to. I mean,
crazy.
I would have thought Kaepernick like they're playing.
The Niners lost 20 players from last year. 20 out of 53 players in 1 year. Whether it's due to stupidity, whether it's due to cuts and trades, whatever.
Retirement. The coach is gone.
They lost their head coach.
Disarray. One word: disarray.
Yeah. So, is there any? Do you see any fantasy relevancy coming out of 49ers?
I can't even name 3 players on the Niners.
I don't know that he's somebody that you would want to really target early in the. I don't even know that I'd look at him third round maybe, but I see him as a solid RB2 option. Carlos Hyde, I really think now that Frank Gore is gone, he's going to get most of the looks. He has the size, speed, and stamina to really carry a running back load. I don't know how good San Francisco is going to be. Like you said, I think they're in complete disarray. But I think Carlos Hyde has a lot of upside. So if you're looking for that RB2, you're looking for a flex option, he is somebody that I would target, round 4. And once you start looking for flex running backs, you start looking for that kind of thing. I think he's somebody to look at. Otherwise, I kind of agree with you. I don't see a whole hell of a lot on the San Francisco team to really get excited about. Other than their stadium. The stadium's beautiful.
Yeah, that's new. But let me tell you something. Carlos Hyde might be a good running back, but when you stack 8 in the box, no running back is good. And there's no receivers out there that are a threat at all. Kaepernick is either going to run the ball or hand it off to Hyde, and 8 in the box is going to cover everything. So I don't think him or Kaepernick are going to do anything fancy football-wise. I would just disregard the whole fucking team.
No, I disagree with you there. I think they do have options. I don't know that they're fake. In Anquan Bolden and Torrey Smith. Torrey Smith, the ex-Raven, is now on the 49ers.
I didn't know that.
I don't think that you can completely overlook that. Those are not guys that you can cover them. You're going to have to scheme for them. So I don't think you're really getting the full 8 in the box looks against Carlos Hyde. But yeah, I kind of tend to agree a little bit. You can take the receivers out of the equation, or you can take the running back. I think you can completely disregard the receivers, especially to the point where they don't have anybody, because I think they do have some quality receivers. But I don't think their receivers are necessarily fantasy. They have to pay Anquan Bolden and be one-on-one. They're going to burn you.
You're breaking up, Aaron. You're breaking up. But all I got was blah, blah, blah. You think the receivers are good. Let me paint a picture for you. Okay? When you stack 8 and you're blitzing every motherfucker on the defense, the quarterback has 2 seconds to react. No receiver is going to be open in time for fucking 2 seconds. The only person that will ever get the ball is Kaepernick, which can't throw. He can only run. Or the running back who will hand off to, who will get stuffed. Or maybe Vernon Davis. Maybe the only relevance on the team is Vernon Davis. And I doubt that would happen. So the receivers are irrelevant when you stack 8 in the box, he's going to get it up the ass. It's not going to be good.
I kind of agree with that to a point if you pressure Kaepernick. And the one reason why is if you've noticed him, and he's shown it time again, the biggest time he's shown it, this problem that he has was against the Seahawks when Richard Sherman, of course, tipped that ball and it got intercepted, and the Seahawks went on to the Super Bowl and then defeat somebody. I don't remember who. I don't remember if the other team even showed up. They went on to win the Super Bowl. The thing with Kaepernick is he doesn't do his checkdowns. He knows who he wants to throw to that play, hikes the ball, stares him down, and once he's made his mind that he's throwing to that person, that's who he's throwing to. So as soon as you figure that out, it's done. If he can't throw to that person, he takes off. So it's either going to be a bad, ill-advised throw, or he's going to hot-foot it. And eventually, in his division, he's going to have problems. You can't do that against Seattle. Can't do that against Arizona. Can't do that against St. Louis. Every defense in that division is built. And the only reason why St. Louis hasn't come up harder is because their offense is lacking, like I said earlier. But every defense in that division is built. So I don't know how. I mean, so that right there is 6 games that Kaepernick's going to have a problem with. I mean, I don't remember the last time they've even beat Seattle. I mean, I don't think they did it this year at all. I think it's been a few. There's been a few series where Seattle's owned them. Arizona is posing a problem now, and of course, like I just mentioned, St. Louis. So I mean, you've got to look for about like 8 other games where you hope one of those guys, Smith, Bolden, does something that blows up. I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, you'll probably get a couple guys, but as far as making sure they're draft relevant, you can hold them in your lineup week to week. I don't see anyone coming out of the Bay Area that's there. And,
and I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that the 49er wide receivers are somebody that you're going to put in your lineup. I'm saying that from a football standpoint, not a fantasy standpoint, from a football standpoint, these 49er wide receivers, you have to scheme for them. You can't just completely ignore Anquan Bolden and Torrey Smith.
I agree.
So you can't just put enough of a threat to warrant 8 in the box. And I think you're going to play a more generic defense. You're going to try to shut it down. You're going to play some zones. You're going to try to get Kaepernick to make some mistakes. But I think that Carlos Hyde is going to get enough touches, and I think he's going to have opportunities to make some plays, some consideration when you get into the 4th and 5th round when you're looking at your flex running back and you're looking at somebody else.
I agree with that. He might be a soft flex. So we're probably just looking at Davis and Hyde from that team, and that's probably it. If you hate somebody in another league, just tell them to draft Kaepernick, and then we'll see how that goes for them. But
that was way too much on the Niners, by the way.
Yeah, what?
That was way too much on the Niners, by the way. It was like
that'll probably be the last time we talk about them for about a few weeks. We're giving them some shine now before the season starts.
Just bouncing around.
We'll not say anything about them. Let's see. What else are we looking at? Anybody out of Detroit that we think might have some relevancy there? Jason?
Well, yeah, I mean,
outside of
yes.
Well, I mean, look, even Calvin Johnson. Last year people were drafting Calvin Johnson 8 through 12, top 8 through 12, totally deserving. I love Calvin Johnson, but this year, me and Aaron are doing some mock drafts, and I'm telling you, he's not even in the first round, maybe middle of the second, maybe end of the second. There's no relevance. Even Stafford, he throws for a bunch of yards, but he doesn't get enough touchdowns, and he throws too many interceptions. We don't know who the running back's going to be. The relevance with Detroit is really tough. It's hard to find a good player on Detroit. What do you think, Aaron?
I actually like their rookie. I think their rookie is somebody to target. Amir Abdullah. I looked at his college stats. Jason knows I'm not a college guy at all. I couldn't even tell you what college he went to. But when I'm looking over rookies, I look at what they are doing when, in their college career. He had over 1,600 yards in each of the last 2 seasons. He was averaging over 6 yards a carry. And I think he's somebody that's really worth looking at. I think he could be this year's Jeremy Hill, where as it goes on, they've got a little bit of a running back by committee thing going, going into the season. But I think he could emerge as somebody that's really carrying that team as a running back, and he's somebody that I would look at on the rookie list. I wouldn't stack rookies by any stretch, but if you're looking to target a rookie and you're looking for somebody, you asked about Detroit, I think he's somebody that definitely is worth looking at because I would stash him on the team. I would put him on the bench, and I would just.
What would you do?
He's breaking up.
Yeah, he is. All right.
What do you think?
It's disappointing.
Oh, there you go.
Having all of this genius. Can you hear me now?
Tarnell, that's what you get for $300 fucking earphones. Jack shit.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if it is illustrious connection. But yeah.
Maybe I'm just speaking too fast. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear
Can you hear me?
now.
But I don't
Okay.
think I was speaking
All
slow.
I'm saying is the Detroit rookie Amir Abdullah. I think he definitely is worth looking at as a running back. I think he could be a major breakout player as we get towards the later half.
Yeah.
I think Abdullah will get some carries. He'll take some carries away from Joique Bell, but Joique Bell is a freaking touchdown machine. That guy's gonna get all the touchdowns. The rookie's gonna get maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns for the year, maybe 500-600 yards. He's gonna take carries away from Bell, but he's a rookie. He's not an impact rookie, and I don't think he's gonna be as relevant as Joique Bell in that offense. So a little
Well,
bit.
Joique Bell gets hurt, and then all that shit goes out the window. And then
There you go.
You're the man. Because of course that's what happens every year. Where everyone sits around prognosticating. And then
Well, going in.
we got a boom that's a bust. You got a bust that turns out to be a boom. You get some surprise people. You get injuries. You get trades, and everything everyone predicts goes out the window. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of good bases. I think we had some good discussion tonight. I think for me it's time to wrap it up. I gotta send some small people to bed, and I got one more that needs to be put down to sleep. So I think we'll wrap it up for this week. And everyone should go out, have some nachos, have some fajitas, and that's it for this Fantasy Football Fiesta. We'll have some more insight for you next week, and that'll be it. See you guys next week, Reds.
All right, take it easy.
Go Bulls, bitches.
All right, later, guys.
Later.